Hello, my name's David Seaman, and this is the Three Lions Podcast.
Hello and welcome once again to the Three Lions Podcast. My name is Russell Osborne and this is an independent England football supporters podcast. I hope you're good. I'm pleased that you've joined me once again. And this is the first time I've released consecutive episodes, 3 of them. It's given me a bit of a real insight into how people do this daily. For me to do these 3 episodes has probably taken me the best part of 3 weeks. Planning, organising, recording, editing, this in amongst family, work, and England Shirt Day. Did I ever mention that? I'll give you an update on a future episode on that. But to be honest, I'll probably take a week off at some point. That wasn't a sob story or a plea of any sort. So I'm just saying it as it is. Firstly, though, I've said it before, I do enjoy it, and I know that these podcasts have been of help and interest to many. So thank you for your continued support and your feedback. This is the final episode of this 3-part series ahead of the 2026 World Cup. Yes, this time next year it will be underway. Some of you will already be there. Some of you will be in transit. Some of you will be maybe waiting for later rounds. I'll be honest, I've still not made my mind up about going yet.
So we have a winner for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The member associations of Canada, Mexico and USA have been selected by the FIFA Congress to host the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Thank you.
Now, if you heard parts 1 and 2, you will know all about Mexico and Canada. My many thanks go to Alberto and Paul and Josh. If you've not heard them, go check them out at your provider of choice. But this time, it's America. Of course, they hosted back in 1994, a tournament that many an England fan will prefer to forget. But let's be honest, it had its moments. Diana Ross, Maradona's eyeball celebration against Greece, Babetto's baby celebration, the USA's Stars and Stripes shirt, that goal for Saudi Arabia, and of course Roberto Baggio missing from the spot. What will they have in store for us this time around? But England have played numerous times across the pond in years gone by. Perhaps nearer the time, I'll look at that in more detail. I personally think we'll end up in the States, provided we qualify. But where? Who knows? But hopefully the following interview will give you a little taster of what to expect. Now, this is part 3 of this mini-series. I hope you found it interesting and helpful so far. Match number 4 of World Cup 2026 takes place on the 12th of June in Inglewood, Los Angeles, California. And as coincidence would have it, I'm joined by a friend of the show, Gurav Singhvi, who is based in Los Angeles. Hello, Gurav, you all right?
Yeah, hey, Russell, I'm doing pretty good. It's nice to speak to you again. I really enjoy your show, so it's a pleasure to be on.
Oh, it's appreciated, very much appreciated. And obviously where you're based is dead handy for talking America next year.
Yeah, I'm just I live maybe 10 to 12 miles away from the SoFi Stadium, so in Inglewood. And that'll be one of the sites for next year's World Cup. So really excited about it and really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously England haven't qualified as yet, as I keep saying in this little series. But I mean, the law of averages says that with the amount of stadiums the States are using in this competition next year. Law of averages says surely we'll be in America if we get there, but we've still got a little bit of time to until that's officially rubber stamped, I guess. But what's the feeling over there in the States from what you see?
Yeah, so I think it's still a little bit more than a year to go, and I think soccer is definitely growing in popularity for sure, a lot over the last few years. But I think there's still a little time, but you can kind of gradually feel the buzz kind of building. I think most of my acquaintances and work colleagues, they know I'm a big soccer fan. I follow English soccer pretty closely, and a lot of them know I've been to the last 2 World Cups in Russia and Qatar. So I think, even though I don't really have any extra knowledge or insight than the average person, but I think they see me as some sort of oracle who can kind of answer all their questions and guide them. I think one thing I have noticed is that a lot of people ask me about tickets and attending, and these are people who, may or may not be, huge soccer fans. So it seems like even people who don't really follow the sport at all on a day-to-day basis, or even casually, infrequently, it seems like almost everybody I come into contact with is interested in attending a match. So I think that could kind of be a good proxy for, what the buzz is, or how excited people are.
Yeah. I mean, even if we cast our mind back some, there's maths off the top of my head here, USA 1994 would have been 32 years ago, I think, maybe 33. Even then there was an interest there, wasn't it? The stadiums were relatively full.
Yeah, I was at that time I was about 14 years old, and I did not get to attend a match in person, but I think at that time I had never really come across or really been interested in soccer. But I think that's really kind of what started. That's kind of what started building my interest in the sport, is that it was there was a lot of buzz around that, and there was a lot of interest in that. And I think that's kind of when this whole journey of sports popularity started in this country. I mean, obviously it's been a long time, ups and downs, but yeah, I think that's when it started. And I think one of the reasons why the sport or an event like this will be pretty popular here is that we're kind of a country of immigrants, so we have folks from all over the world, and a lot of them this is their favorite sport, or in their native country this is the sport. I think the prime example of that would be kind of Mexican Americans, who are our co-hosts this time, but huge population of Mexican Americans. So this is their number one sport. They're really into it. And then in the area where I live in Southern California, there's lots of Iranians, who have moved here from Iran. And I think they're definitely, this is definitely their number one sport. I have a lot of friends who are Iranian, and they kind of live, even though, they live, die and breathe with the Iranian national team. And you may have gotten a flavor of that when in Qatar, because I believe we're kind of all in the same group with the Iranians.
That's right.
Yeah, and they're quite passionate fans. So I know. So yeah, just different groups like that. Probably from, if not all 48 countries, and most of them will have like a large diaspora of expats living here. So I think that'll just kind of add to the atmosphere and the excitement.
Yeah, no, that's makes sense. Well, there's a few things that I want to kind of run past you, I think. Should we put it like that? Let's start with sort of tickets and that side of things, because you mentioned about going to Russia and Qatar for the past 2 tournaments and getting tickets for that, which sort of in a way ties in for something else I want to talk to you about, is sort of like the visa side of things, because that was kind of part and parcel of those 2 previous World Cups, and obviously is a big thing with getting into the country. But tickets in general, have they gone on sale over there at the moment?
They haven't gone on sale. There's a lot of speculation and conjecture about how it's going to work. I think I'll try to be as factual as possible. So the only 3 schemes that I've seen are there was a debenture scheme for hospitality tickets. So that involved putting down a deposit, and then getting the chance to purchase hospitality tickets. Another scheme I saw was this involved buying. There was some sort of threshold. I think it was like maybe a dozen or 2 dozen tickets to the Club World Cup, and then you would get. I don't know if you'd get a chance to get finals tickets for the World Cup final next year, or if they would actually give you the World Cup final tickets. And then the third scheme I saw was it was kind of a hospitality scheme again, but this was for like if you wanted to subscribe to a particular stadium, then you could subscribe to that hospitality package at that stadium, and you'd be able to attend, I think, anywhere from 4 to 8 or 9 matches, just depending on how many matches are at that stadium.
Okay.
So that's all I've seen so far, and these seem quite costly, even for hospitality. Based on prior ticket prices. I've heard a lot of rumors about the general sales tickets, but I haven't seen anything that I can point to as fact. But a couple of things I have heard is that they'll probably go on sale in the fall, so somewhere between September and November, at least the first phase. And then one thing some of my friends who kind of follow this closely have been telling me is that they're hearing or they're feeling that the tickets are going to be quite expensive. So probably much more expensive than the last 2 World Cups. Again, I don't know if this is true, but this is just what we're hearing. And I think that would kind of make sense to me, because I think here in the States, a lot of these entertainment, not just sports, but sports, music, a lot of these things are quite expensive, especially compared to England. And I know this is a place, since it's a relatively wealthy country, FIFA would probably want to maximize all the revenue they can get. So I think we should be prepared for the tickets to be expensive. And like I mentioned, there's a lot of casual fans or people who don't really follow the sport. And I think for them, attending 1 or 2 matches and paying a lot of money would probably be okay. So I think maybe they're trying to take advantage of that segment of the population.
I see. As I sort of alluded to there with the previous World Cups in Qatar and Russia, I didn't go to Qatar myself, but I went to Russia. They had the fan visa where they had the lanyard around your neck. I can't remember its official term now. But obviously that gave you access to the country without sort of circumnavigating the visa issue, as it were. Obviously we know going into America can be a little bit more murky, maybe I say. Do you know if there's anything similar to be done in that respect?
So I think the good news for English fans is that we have they don't need a visa to come to America to visit, but yeah, for most of the fans from kind of other countries and continents, they will require a visa to visit. And I think this is kind of something that kind of predates the current administration. Is that I know even under the previous administration, FIFA was trying to secure some sort of an agreement. Obviously, I did go to both Russia and Qatar, and that was very easy because the visa was your ticket, so it made everything very easy. I don't know if any administration would go for that kind of a scheme here, but I think FIFA and the State Department are maybe working on something to maybe streamline the process once you're known to be attending this event. So I think that's in the works. But I mean, obviously, immigration here is kind of a very controversial thing, and the current president is quite mercurial, I could say. So I don't know if that will be the case. I don't know how hard or I'm thinking it'll be a lot more difficult for people to come than the last 2 World Cups, but hopefully they'll have some sort of streamlined process in place. I think maybe one more thing I could throw in is that I think they do want people from all over the world to come here. And obviously we'd all like that and make the tournament a lot more colorful, but I think there is some quarters or one school of thought that thinks it's a very populous and rich country. So there should be like a large target population regardless.
Right. One thing I think I will just mention, you say about English fans not needing a visa as such to get into the States. They will need, I think do you call it an ESTA? Is that not a visa as such?
Yeah, so I think, actually, I was just in England maybe a couple months ago, and I think the UK government started that similar process for us as well, where I had to, I think they call it a visa waiver or some sort. I think you basically pay a small fee and then you electronically put in your information, and then the one from the UK for us is good for about 2 years, and it costs about I think I want to say $12, so maybe £7-8, and basically it was very quick for us. It just took like maybe less than 5 minutes to fill out the application and to get processed, and then I wasn't asked about it. I just went through the e-gates over there, but I think it's some way for them to kind of keep track of things and maybe security. And I think you're right. I think there is a similar process for British folks and also for European folks in general to get that visa waiver. But I think it's a fairly easy and low cost process. Yeah. So I don't think that should be a major impediment.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, obviously, the news of late has been quite full of American news, shall we say. Obviously, I don't tend to go into politics too much on a podcast here, but Trump's in charge now over there. Has he got has he mentioned the World Cup in any way, shape or form?
Yeah, so that's kind of an interesting question, and I think that's why we may get some positive resolution for this visa issue, because this World Cup was awarded when he was a president the last time, and I think
of course,
I don't know what he had to do with it exactly, but he was very happy about that, and he took a lot of credit for that, as he tends to do for things. And then this time when he got inaugurated, I don't know if folks back there were able to watch the inauguration, but it was done indoors in the Capitol because of the weather. Yes. And there's not very many people who were invited to the stage behind. But I think one kind of foreign dignitary that I easily recognized, but I think a lot of Americans couldn't really face, was Gianni Infantino. So he was there front and center. And he was invited to all of the festivities. And he seems to have developed quite a close relationship with Trump. I know I've seen after the inauguration, I've seen him at the White House and in the Oval Office, at least on one occasion and maybe more. And then I think even there was a recent presidential trip to the Middle East, and he was there meeting with the president and on the delegation. So I think they've developed a close relationship. I think they both are kind of transactional people, so they both want this event to go as smoothly as possible. So I think in that way, since Trump wants this to be a success and he's close to Infantino now, that may actually bring about a positive resolution to this visa issue. And I think him and the government, they're kind of fully invested in making sure this event is a success. I think they've also created some sort of a commission, which is kind of a governmental and private kind of organization that's tasked with kind of looking after all the events to do with the World Cup. So I think he's taken it quite seriously, and he's very interested in this event next year.
Oh, fair enough. We'll see Trump maybe with his foot on the ball on a stage maybe and wearing the US kit, will we?
I think he has. I think they've already announced that he will present the trophy to the winner.
Right.
So I'm sure he'll make other appearances as well. So yeah, it's something to look forward to, I guess.
Yeah. Well, let's get the politics is out the way. We can have a bit of fun now, I think. As I said, it's the venues in the States across like 3 regions: the West region, the Central region, the Eastern region. What's the stadiums like there? Do you know?
Yeah. So one thing to keep in mind, and I think we as people living in the States don't always fathom this, but I think maybe for Europeans it might be especially difficult. It's a very big country.
Yeah.
So I think to fly from one end to the other, it takes about 6 hours. So I think it's smart that they've kind of divided the tournament into these 3 regions, and I think they're going to try to keep teams, at least for the first group stage, kind of in a very close proximity for all their matches. There's going to be 11 stadiums in the U.S. I think they're all quite large stadiums. The average, I was actually calculated this out before the podcast. The average capacity is about 75,000 for the 11 stadiums. They're all football stadiums, meaning American football stadiums. So I think size-wise, that's pretty similar to a football soccer pitch, maybe a little different dimensions. Most of them are quite new. I want to say there are a couple that are quite old, but I think the vast majority have been built after 2000 or 2010. So they're quite new stadiums. They're quite state of the art. I think right now some of them do not have the natural grass surface, but I think in time for the tournament, all of them will have, be of the proper dimension and have the top-notch surface for the tournament. I've been to SoFi Stadium here a couple of times to actually watch soccer matches, and yeah, it's a good experience. It seemed to go off pretty smoothly. I think maybe one of the things, and we can get into this further in further episodes if you like, but I think some of the stadiums are not exactly in kind of city centers or central locations.
Right.
So I think there may be some planning involved in terms of how to get there. So that can sometimes be a chore. I know for our SoFi Stadium here, I've been there a couple of times, and it's we do a lot of driving here, and it's not exactly the easiest place to get in and out of and to park at. So hopefully, but yeah, I mean, I think with planning and knowledge that could be mitigated.
Taking a look at like the Western region, there's the two stadiums in the States there, the one in Los Angeles and the one in San Francisco. For argument's sake, if England were to be drawn and based in that area, what's the distance roughly between the two? And is that a fly-in job, or is there?
So actually, there's one more city in the Western region, Seattle, and actually we know that the U.S. team, they've already kind of announced. Obviously, not the U.S. club, the U.S. team's schedule, but they've announced which group they're going to be and which cities they're going to participate in. So actually, they're part of that West region. I think 2 of the matches will be in Los Angeles and 1 of the matches will be in Seattle. LA to San Francisco area is about, I want to say it's about maybe 300 to 300 miles, 250 miles.
Okay.
It is a short flight, maybe less than an hour, and there are multiple flights that go. We call it the San Francisco Bay Area because there's kind of other cities there as well. So there's multiple flights that go from Southern California to Northern California, and it's about an hour flight. So that's definitely a viable option. A lot of folks like to drive. Some of the routes can be quite scenic. That would probably be about a 6-hour drive. Rail options are possible as well. They'll take a little bit longer and they're kind of not as well developed, but it is a possibility. I think, obviously with all of these things, there could be expenses due to supply and demand issues. So my advice would always be to plan as early as possible to make these arrangements. Another possibility, and again, we can talk about this further once we know where England is going. But there's always a possibility not to live in or not to stay in Los Angeles or San Francisco. There's kind of many points in between, and they could be good hubs to like kind of stay at, and then you kind of get to wherever you need to get to, and they could also be more economical in terms of accommodations as well. So I think it definitely all could be planned very well and to mitigate any expenses.
Yeah. And you say about sort of accommodation, there's hotels and sort of homestays and I don't know, I guess Airbnbs and all that sort of thing. Are they sort of getting ready for it on that front as well?
Yeah, I think I haven't seen anything specific for the World Cup, but obviously, I have a feeling it's going to be quite costly, even though there is a large supply here. But I think maybe kind of one of the things that kind of may mitigate those costs is, obviously we have a huge supply here. I think many hotels, I think there will be a lot of Airbnb and homestays who are going to get activated for that tournament. And then another thing, like I mentioned, is I don't think it's necessary to kind of live in or stay in the exact city or city center of where these tournaments are happening. For example, in our Southern California region, the SoFi Stadium, I think you could live or stay within, even a 30 or 40-mile radius of the stadium. And I don't think it would really hamper too much being able to get to the stadium. But I think it could really increase your options in terms of where you can stay, and also it could decrease the cost as well. So I think that is kind of, I think, one of the advantages of being such a large place is that there should be many options, and hopefully some of them will be economical enough.
Yeah. Once we're nearer the time, I think that'll be the time to sort of dig a little bit deeper and scratch the surface then. Yeah, I think you're right. One thing with summer tournaments in general, bar maybe Qatar, with the reason that they moved it, is the weather. What's the weather like in the States in sort of June, July time? I guess it can vary from region to region.
Yeah, it can, but I think it's going to be quite hot. I think interestingly, I recall that I think it was in the middle of June, maybe a few years ago, maybe even before the Qatar World Cup, where that was the day that they announced these stadiums that were going to host the World Cup, and that was kind of a big event. They made it like a made-for-TV event, and I think one of the commentators pointed out that on that day in June, I think 4 of the 11 cities, or maybe 5 of the 11 cities, the temperature was actually the June 16th, I think, was the day temperature was actually equivalent or hotter than what it was in Qatar. So I think I think that kind of gives you an indication of. I think that'll definitely be something. I think obviously for the spectators, but for the players, more importantly, is that the weather is quite hot now. I want to say out of the 11 stadiums, 5 are covered or have the capability to be covered. So they could go that route if the weather is extremely hot. And then I think hopefully they can also mitigate that by maybe having more matches in the evening. But I think that's definitely something to prepare for, is very hot weather. And I think, especially I think that may be difficult for, English players or European fans and players in general, just kind of how hot it may be. Yeah. But that's a good point you bring up. It's something to prepare for.
Yeah. Lots of factor 40, factor 50, I guess, as well. I'm just thinking back, actually, that it was one of the 94 games where famously Ireland played. It was Jack Charlton and who was it? I think it was someone who was bringing, it might have been John Aldridge and no, it was Steve Staunton, I think, who had to wear a hat, didn't he, in the lineup because he was fair haired and was not afraid of the sun, but very self-conscious of it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the weather is always quite variable and, we may get lucky, but I think it's best to prepare for it being very hot. Yeah.
Yeah. And famously, obviously, Qatar had the air conditioning in, I don't know if it was just one stadium or more than one, but is that a thing in the States there, air conditioned stadiums?
No, we have the enclosed stadiums. So I think 4 of them are enclosed. So they can regulate the temperature on the inside. I think the 5th stadium, the SoFi Stadium, actually is not exactly enclosed, but I think they can put a kind of a roof over, so it can kind of mitigate the heat to some degree. So these enclosed stadiums are climate controlled. And I believe for the 94 World Cup, there was also maybe 1 or 2 that were also kind of domed stadiums that were climate controlled as well. So I I think obviously it's a little bit different than they do in England, but I think it could be a good experience as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Staying in the stadiums, we obviously hear about, I don't know, the prices of things. People who maybe have been to the States come back saying, a can of whatever beer costs X amount of dollars. Is that right? Like how maybe expensive food and drink will be in the ground?
Unfortunately, that is true. The food and drink is quite expensive in the stadium. I don't know. It may be if you want the experience, I guess that's fine. But it may be better to kind of take care of that stuff beforehand. Now, interestingly, there is one stadium in Atlanta. It's called the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's home of the Atlanta Falcons for American football, and then for the Atlanta United for soccer. And I've never been to that stadium, but it's a very nice stadium. It's an enclosed stadium. It's relatively new. I want to say it's maybe 10 to 15 years old. And that the folks who own those two clubs, they've kind of have this commitment, or they've kind of come up with this commitment where they're going to charge very reasonable prices for concessions.
Okay.
So that's one that is kind of a very unique thing. I've never heard of anything like that, and certainly in American sports, but maybe even worldwide. So I think they charge very reasonable prices for pretty much all concessions. Now, I don't know, obviously this is going to be FIFA running the tournament. So they may have they may decide, seems like in Russia and Qatar, they had kind of a very kind of uniform menu throughout all the stadiums. And I think they were the ones who were kind of setting the prices as well. So that's possible that, it's possible that the pricing may kind of differ in that aspect. But I think knowing the American mindset, unfortunately, I think you just probably count on the high prices.
Yeah, maybe just the one beer then. What else have we got here? Let's a thing that I mentioned to the Mexican contributor to this little series is about sort of there's obviously all the very nice aspects you see about each country, be it Mexico, Canada, or the States. But at the same time, there is little things like maybe some negative aspects, some, I don't know, the levels of crime in each. Is this something for fans to worry about, be concerned about?
I think it's best to be prepared, or just be aware of things that can go wrong. Obviously, we pray that it doesn't happen and everything runs out smoothly. But yeah, I think, unfortunately, crime can be an issue in major cities here. But I don't expect it to be too much of a factor, or a factor at all during the World Cup. I think most of the stadiums are kind of away from the city centers. I mean, they're going to be very active places during the match days and probably during the tournament as well. So I don't really expect, I expect them to be secure and well secured and, kind of very open places. So I don't think that'll be too much of a factor. But obviously always just best to be aware of your surroundings. Yeah,
of course. Yeah. Look after yourself and look after your belongings. Just make sure you're in a safe area. Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's touch on the USA team and their performances, and because obviously you haven't had to qualify for this tournament, and I know you've had the Gold Cup recently.
So the Gold Cup is starting in a couple of weeks. So that's for folks who don't know, that's kind of like similar to the Euros or the AFCON. It's just a tournament for like a regional tournament for North Central America that happens every 2 years. This time it's happening here in the States, and it's kind of billed as a preparatory for the World Cup next year. So I think it involves maybe 5 or 6 of the stadiums. So that's happening starting next month, and I think it's kind of viewed as an important for the U.S. team, because it's kind of one of maybe the only kind of competitive situation they'll be in before the World Cup, because as you mentioned, there's no qualifying involved. I think they're, after the last World Cup, they reached the round of 16 and lost to the Netherlands. And I think there are kind of high expectations building towards this tournament, which I would probably class as maybe making a quarterfinal. But I think, unfortunately, since the last World Cup, I would say they haven't really performed very well. There's kind of been some turnaround in the turnover in the managerial ranks. I don't want to get into the details, but there was some issue that the prior manager from our last World Cup he had with some players, and that kind of spilled out, became kind of ugly. And then even the performance on the field, I think it's been pretty up and down. We had a small CONCACAF Nations League tournament back in March, and they lost the semifinal and the third place match. So right now, we have Mauricio Pochettino. He's our coach, so he's obviously well known to English fans. He took over last fall. So obviously he needs some time, and he's only had maybe 5 or 6 matches, but, I would say they've kind of underperformed in those matches. We do have a lot of players that, maybe English or European fans would recognize, but I think, unfortunately, I think some of them are they're playing at a lot of them are playing at the highest levels, but sometimes only a couple of them are kind of maybe standout performers. The rest of them are maybe kind of don't play as much. And, I don't know if that's kind of affecting the performance of the team, where they're just not getting consistency. No. So myself, my expectations are pretty tempered. I'll see, hopefully they can get out of the group stage and then take it from there. But I think, I would say the U.S., the program is still kind of a work in progress. But yeah, you never know. I mean, with the home crowd behind you and some favorable luck and the ball bouncing your way, you can make quite a run.
Yeah. Year to go. Plenty can still happen, can't it?
Right. Yeah. So, and I think, it may be a little bit kind of a different feeling than if this tournament was in England. Obviously we're all kind of sports fans and patriotic people, and we definitely will get after our team, especially if they start performing very well. But I have a feeling here it's kind of more about the World Cup experience in general and attending matches, and not necessarily as much concern about how well the U.S. team performs. Whereas I followed England and been there a few times, and I know kind of when they get going, as they've done very well in recent years, everybody kind of gets behind them, and it's kind of very focused on the Three Lions. Whereas here, I think it'll kind of just be, folks might, like I mentioned, there's people of lots of nationalities here, so they may decide to just, pick a different team, or just kind of get excited by the atmosphere in general.
Yeah, just taking the tournament for what it is. Yeah, I kind of get that. Yeah. There's plenty for us to food for thought, I think is what they say. Plenty for us to chew on there in the time that we've got left until we know where officially England are going to be playing. So thank you very much for that, Gurav. It's been really helpful. And as I say, once we do know a little bit more, maybe we can hook up again and maybe do a part 2 of a 3-part mini series that I've been doing here.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'd certainly love to do that, and I'd certainly love to. Hopefully, we can meet next summer, or meet a lot of the English fans next summer. I'd really look forward to that.
Yeah, I think England fans will be coming across in their droves, I think.
Yeah, and I think they've got to be one of the I know you talked about officially qualifying, but in my eyes, they've got to be definitely one of the pre-tournament favorites, one of the top 2 or 3. Yeah. So I think, so I think it's definitely a reason to come over.
We shall see. I'm looking forward to it. Gurav, thank you very much as always for your time. This isn't not the first time you've been on, previously as well. And thank you. You always bring some insight to the show, which I appreciate.
Pleasure, Russell. I really enjoy your program. So thanks for having me on.
There we have it. Many thanks, as always, to Gurav for his time and input. Top man, thank you. So that's the end of this 3-part mini-series. Don't forget, you can go back at any time and give them another listen. Please do. Spread the word, especially if you're going, or if you know people who intend on going. I hope you found it of interest. If you've got any questions that you'd like me to put to any of the contributors, just drop me a line either on the socials or email 3lionspodcast@gmail.com. Yeah, those socials, Twitter, Facebook, X, or whatever you call it. Yeah, Instagram. Just give it a search, a follow, a thumbs up, or hit me a message. Really appreciated. I will be back with you very soon with some more England-related content. So please do hit that subscribe button and you'll not miss it. So until then, take care of yourselves. Cheers.